Okay, let's move it along.
Cool.
Our dream expert is ironically falling asleep listening to this. So, Ian Wallace, welcome to Tailenders.
Yes, Ian.
Thank you.
Oh no. No. Hey, Ian. Thank you for waiting so patiently. And it's a pleasure to have a professional on this podcast finally. Oh, actually, no, we had Tammy Beaumont. To have our second professional of the day on the podcast. So you're a dream expert, and can you tell us your qualifications, please, that you need for this role? Because I'm fascinated with this. As a career, I'm fascinated by this.
Are you? Would you like to become the Apprentice dream expert?
Perhaps.
I would.
Let's see how it goes.
I'd try and do that, but I would end up probably just doing videos on Cameo to supplement my income, because I don't think people would come to me.
You could do a mashup and do Dreamio, where you just do people's dreams on there for a tenner.
Why are you not, Ian? You need to do that. Honestly, you need to. People would do that. People would just call you up or send you a message and say, "Oh, I had the dream where I was riding on top of an elephant on the moon. What does it mean?" And you're
That's
20
an
quid
amazing
later.
idea.
Why don't you just do that, Ian?
Yeah, well, I have to go now, guys, because I've thought of a
Right. Okay. So how do you become a dream expert? I'm fascinated by it.
I've always been really fascinated by dreams ever since I was a tiny child. So I went to university, studied psychology, became a qualified psychologist, and I've spent the last 40 years working with people's dreams. I do a lot of other psychological things now, but dreams are at the core of it. And in that 40 years, I've analysed over 300,000 dreams from my clients.
Wow.
So I'm starting to get the hang of it now, I think. Yeah, so I've been fully briefed and watched the video a few times. And it's really interesting because people tend to think that dreams are very literal. So if you dream about being on an elephant on the moon, that is something that's going to happen, that you have to get to the moon somehow and find an elephant partner. But the way that dreams work, they work in images, particularly linguistic images. So through metaphors and idioms and so on, and resonances and callbacks. So the reason that we dream in the way we do, and the reason we use imagery, is that the main way we express emotions in waking life is through images. So if you're a bit angry with me, Greg, you say something like, "Oh, Ian, I'm angry with you," I think, "Oh, you're just a bit disappointed." But if you say, "If you do that again, I will erupt," you become a volcano. Or that thing you do, "I'm absolutely fuming at that," you're on fire because you're so angry. So dreams are not just a stream of images, they're a flow of emotions. And the fundamental psychological reason why we dream is to process our emotions. So all these things that Joe is doing in his dream, he's using dream imagery to process some emotional tension that he's trying to resolve.
Interesting. Well, let's relive the dream for anyone who didn't listen to the last podcast. Here's what Joe Root dreamt about.
I remember falling asleep one night, and I woke up the next morning, and all I could remember was being sat in a room with the three of you doing a podcast live. And we were talking through a spell that Jimmy bowled. Felix was on guitar, and he was playing Tenacious D tribute and talking through so doing it as a song. So instead of having the words of the song, it was like Jimmy was bowling a long, tiresome spell, and then kept going and going and going and going. And it basically transpired into this tribute of Jimmy's bowling. But then I was like, if you're playing it wrong, you pass me the guitar. First of all, it's left-handed, so it was no good for me. And then the strings turned into like spaghetti. So I'm trying to play this song and the strings are just all over the place. And then I woke up in panic. So try and make of that what you can.
So there you go. That's Joe's dream. And also for the record, I'm not angry with you.
That's good. The interesting thing about dreams is that they are very often quite commonplace events or objects, but they are in a strange context. So Joe's doing something where he's going up to the bubbles and he's going to perform in some way. So if we do this literally, we're thinking about performance as something he would do on the cricket pitch. But he's actually he's using his guitar as a symbol for performance. So he's trying to articulate how he feels about something. And he's looking for guidance. So that's why he's trying to get Felix to play the guitar or teach him guitar and do that part of it. He's also chosen quite an odd song, tribute. It's quite a kind of dull song. And he's using that to explain something that Jimmy's doing. But a tribute, it's effectively one chord. It's A minor. and it just goes chugging along. And it's a joke tribute as well. So Joe is taking quite a light-hearted approach to something that he's maybe a bit bored by. So he's maybe feeling a bit constrained, a bit hemmed in by being in the bubbles. But the really interesting part of the dream is where the unusual things happen. And that's when the strings turn to spaghetti. So what a guitar symbolises in a dream is the ability to keep things in a creative tension and articulate a message to someone. And when the strings go slack, then what Joe's experiencing, there's something in his performance as a cricketer where he's experiencing a loss of creative tension. And it's probably around his relationships with people, that he can't connect with people and have those really tight connections with people and those harmonious connections that he needs to make something happen. So that's why he's getting really frustrated. And a dream is just a dream until you put it into action. So the action from this dream for Joe, he's looking for someone to help him maintain really tight, close relationships in the situation that we're in. And he's looking for different ways to do that. And he's trying to take it quite lightheartedly, but you need a wee bit more serious about that and actually work on maintaining those really close, tight relationships, not just with other people in the team, but also in his social life, with his family, and performing his duties as a father and a husband, and so on.
Do you advise in general that people take action from what they're dreaming about?
Yeah, I feel like it's a fundamental thing to do, because it used to be thought until about 30 years ago that the dream happened to you, that you just lay there like some kind of psychic receiver and tuned into the ether and the gods were sending you messages, which is complete nonsense. And it was shown neurologically in the 1990s by Professor Mark Soames that the dream doesn't happen to you, you happen to the dream and you create everything in it. And the reason that you're creating a dream is you're processing all these emotions. And in terms of how aware we are, we're only consciously aware of 2% of what's happening in our brains and minds and our hearts. And the other 98% is unconscious and emotional. So that's the bit we use our dreams to process. So every night you're sending yourself messages about how you can navigate some sort of challenge. And dreams are not just retrospective. They're not just looking into the past. They're actually helping you understand who you can become. So they do that Bayesian loop process of thinking about, this is my past experience, what are my expectations? But if you don't take any action, you'll never become the person you can be.
Wow.
Amazing. This is,
so Ian, so just to take it a bit further, we've been talking about it, but a lot of cricketers often have, like Jimmy has a dream where he's about to bat, but he can't find his pads. He's about to walk up. We just had Tammy Bowman on, who plays for England. She said she has a similar dream where she's about to bat, but she can't, or someone's going to walk in before her. What does that tell us about the game in which they all inhabit? Because in my head,
they're unprepared.
Cricket is quite often, but cricket is often a game for even the most successful people. It's rooted in failure. Even the most successful people fail more often than they succeed. So that must build a lot of subconscious, load you a lot of subconscious tension, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely, Flick. So we experience these tensions all the time, and it's one of the main ways that we learn is through failing. And the public performance dream is actually the 18th most common dream from around the world, whatever profession you're involved in. So for cricketers like you, Jimmy, it may be that you think, oh, where are my pads, or I've left the bat in the changing room. For Greg, it's a very common one amongst radio presenters. I hear this all the time from radio presenters. And yourself, Felix, when you're about to go on stage, you think, where's my guitar cable, or the wireless thing isn't working, or I've just broken a string. And usually public performance is not so much about a fear of failure in performing. It's about you being able to witness your own performance. And that's where the failure is, because you're spending all your time trying to prove your worth to other people through some sort of dynamic performance. And the reality is that you don't spend enough time realizing how good you actually are. So the action from that dream, instead of always looking for an audience to witness your achievements, you should maybe take a bit of time and reflect on your own achievements to do that. And failure is part of that learning process. I always like that Samuel Beckett quote, ever tried, ever failed, no matter. Try again, fail better. And that's what you do in a performance all the time. You're always trying to fail better and push yourself and compete against yourself, as well as competing against other people.
I feel like that's a good tagline for Tail Ender, isn't it? Fail better. You've just summed us up very neatly.
We do fail better than most people.
Yeah, I'd say so. There's an email that we wanted to... It's a listener dream that I wanted to recap on from last week. This was an email from, Mr. Anonymous, because it was quite weird. I was watching an England cricket match from the 80s on YouTube. Hyrule Gower was playing, and whoever was batting smashed up a skyer. It was then I noticed that he had a huge blonde afro and was completely naked except for his cricket shoes. He went up to take the catch and dropped it. At this point, Mike Gatting, who was also naked except for cricket shoes, ran over to Gower, and karate kicked him in his substantial manhood and balls. Gower fell to the ground, rolling around in pain with his huge afro and knob flapping around. Not sure what happened next. Maybe the YouTube clip ended, but I remember waking up and laughing. I did have another dream a couple of days later which involved the naked Wayne Larkins in a cricket changing room, but that's all I can remember about it. Go well, Mr. Anon. What do we make of that then, Ian?
I'm not sure if those are dreams or some odd fantasies, but they are a dream, and be really professional and psychological about this. Being naked in public is the fourth most common dream from around the world. And again, just working with imagery, it's not that you're going to go out and forget your trousers or anything like that. What our clothes do, how we present ourselves to other people, how we present our self-image, is through the clothes that we choose. And even though we choose our clothes very casually, we are still unconsciously choosing how we present ourselves to other people. If you dream that you're naked in public, or other people are naked in public, then you are admitting a vulnerability in some way. You're feeling that you have to open up to your inner self and maybe share things with other people that you don't want to. And it very often happens when you go into a new job or a new situation or a relationship where you feel vulnerable. But the only way you can build up trust with other people is to open up to them and open up to who you really are inside. So in that dream, there's a couple of things going on there. There's one where the dreamer is realizing that people who maybe have a professional image are kind of normal human beings underneath. And there's also some sort of conflict going on there where there's an internal conflict for the dreamer. So perhaps it's something in waking life where the dreamer feels that they're having to perform in some way, but they are maybe trying to do it in quite a kind of light-hearted way again, in a quite a jokey way, but they have to be a bit more serious about it and resolve that conflict where they're trying to take a light-hearted approach, but people are looking to them to be a bit more serious and structured in their actions.
Ian, do you find it quite an English trait that we try and interpret our dreams with humour when actually there's always a serious thing behind it or something? Do you know what I mean? A genuine sort of weighted emotion behind it.
So I've interpreted dreams from all around the world, apart from, I have done some from Antarctica a long time ago via various messaging services. But what we find is that people tend to dismiss them because the fundamental flow of consciousness of who you really are, the dream is the ultimate self-portrait. It's the ultimate selfie of who you really are, of who you think you are, what you need and what you believe. And we all do this in waking life. We adopt a persona that kind of hides sometimes who we really are. And every now and again, we let that person underneath, we give people a glimpse of it, of that power. And very often people are afraid to make choices and to step into their power. And as a result, we tend to be very lighthearted about it and discuss dreams in this kind of very, very surreal Salvador Dali way. All become psychologists and get into the depths of it, just thinking, what's the one thing that what's the decision I can make today to move something forward that I'm really passionate about?
Can I ask whether there's been whether there's been a sort of thematic pandemic dream that a lot of people have dreamed about during this year? Like, is there something that is tying everything together?
Yeah, so there have been getting lots and lots of people having these, as Holly Willoughby calls them, so-called quarren dreams. And in these dreams that people feel that they are being constrained or restricted in some way, feel that they're trying to escape from a prison or a water-filled tunnel. They feel that they're being chased by a faceless monster. And there are a whole number of them, but they all come back to the fact that people need to do things like particularly understanding personal boundaries, and not just in social distancing and keeping 2 meters, but understanding their personal boundaries and how they will look after other people and how they look after themselves. And if someone else is being too needy and stressing someone else out, just being able to declare and articulate those personal boundaries. And also things, because dreams work with resolving emotional tension, it can sound really simplistic and a bit platitudinous to say actions of kindness in waking life, just being kind to other people, is a really good thing because that resolves tension in your dream. If you feel that you're in conflict or you're dealing with some uncertain situation with another person, that will show up in your dreams and you will have conflicting dreams and unsettling dreams. So being able to do that, it really does show up that since I first started noticing these dreams from some Chinese clients in December 2019, and I actually charted them as they spread around the globe, and people were starting to have these themes in their dreams.
Can I ask what the number one dream is? You said about the 14th and the 4th. What's number one? Is it flying?
And is it high or gower?
Well,
Is it number one in the vinyl chart, the stream?
let's play higher or snore. That will be the dream version. So in higher or snore, we did 4 and 18. The number one dream is being chased. And again, working with language, people think being chased is all about something where they're getting stressed out. But in language, we have this word pursuit. Now, pursuit is being chased or chasing something, but it's also an ambition. So if you dream that you're being chased, there's some ambition that you are pursuing in waking life, but you're encountering some frustrations or challenges around it. So the action from the dream is to understand what those challenges are and take some definite steps to move beyond them.
Ian, you've got the most amazing voice as well. It's been fascinating. It's been so soothing, and I'm sure all the tail-enders listening would have been so soothed. I know for a fact a lot of people, loads of people close to me are suffering from terrible insomnia at the moment and really disturbed sleeping because of the amount of doom in the world. So do you have any tips for people who are probably listening to this actually in the middle of the night, just feeling that they're panicking, that they can't get back to sleep? Give us some top Ian Wallace tips for this. I know you're not necessarily a sleep expert, but as a dream expert, what's a good thing to calm your brain down?
Well, I am a practicing psychologist. I have done quite a lot with sleep, and it's one of these things that in order to dream, you need to sleep well. If you have low quality or disturbed sleep, then you tend to have quite poor quality and unsettled dreams. So the number one thing is make your bedroom a haven for sleep. Keep it cool, dark, and calm. And try and get all your electronic gear out of there. So TVs, phones, computers, tablets, all that sort of stuff. Try and get out of your bedroom. And the reason for doing that is if you overstimulate your brain, particularly if you're scrolling through social media just before you go to sleep, then it really overstimulates your brain, and it'll take you an hour or two to settle down. One of the things that people do to try and sedate themselves a little bit before they go to bed is to have a few drinks, to have some wine or maybe some gin. And that works up to a point. As your body processes alcohol, it turns from a sedative into a stimulant. And that's why you wake up usually after 3 or 4 hours and can't get back to sleep again. Just try also before you go to sleep, not doing any meditation or mindfulness stuff, but just try and breathe gently and just get rid of tension. Just do a little bit of relaxation. Just imagine, this is where I send everyone to sleep. It's like your eyes are getting better.
Yeah, I'm in that zone now.
The thing to always think is that if you're lying in your bed trying to get to sleep, you can't really do much else. So just let everything go and just let sleep come. And the more you do that, the more you get into a habit of doing that, then the easier it will be. And also in waking life, it's good to set personal boundaries, be kind to other people. Just try and be really human, try and help other people, make sure everyone's okay. And the more you do that, the more you can reduce your emotional tension during the day, the easier it will be to get to sleep. And if you are facing challenges, it's really, really unfortunate for people losing jobs, people losing income, people losing their health, people losing loved ones, then just try and do everything you can to just make decisions. Don't be in fear of what's around you. Just try and be really courageous and brave in doing that. And that will show up in your dreams. So in your dreams, if you're being chased in the number one dream by some faceless horror, one of the really interesting things that happens in dream, this is maybe a subject for another chat, there's a phenomenon called lucid dreaming, where you become aware that you're dreaming. And if you're having really unsettled, disturbed sleep, there'll be a point where you're maybe waking from a nightmare, and the natural thing to do is just to try and wake up and get yourself away from it. But if you imagine yourself just on the cusp as you're waking from that nightmare, if you can stay in it, if you make the choice to stay with the nightmare and find out what's actually pursuing you and ask it, who are you and what do you need? Usually you get this very clear answer of some action you can take. And the fascinating thing about that process of lucid dreaming or engaging with a nightmare is you realize that you have the power and the choice to make good decisions in your life and have a safe and happy life. And if you realize that in a dream, in that moment of deep emotion, you realize that in waking life too, that we all have far more power and choice than we think we do.
Ian, this has been so good. Thank you for being on today. This is great. I mean, even Sharky's applauding, and he doesn't have any emotion with these sorts of things. So this is amazing. That's Wow. Ian, thank you so much for being on. I feel like we should probably revisit this at some point soon because we're going to undoubtedly have more dreams. And I'm now going to be thinking and logging every dream I have. And all the tail ends will be logging their dreams. So can we book you again?
Yeah, I'd be delighted. It's been wonderful chatting with you. I've really enjoyed it.
Nice one.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
Ian
Oh,
Wallace,
thanks so much,
dream
Ian.
expert, thank you so much for being on Tailenders. Actually, just a couple more bits before we finish. This is on the subject of the spaghetti guitar from Charlie. They say G-Force, Felix, Jimmy, Puchin, Sharknado, and
Cheers,
Ian
cheers,
Wallace.
cheers.
I put that last
Cheers.
bit in. Long-time listener, first-time emailer. Love the show. I was enjoying some of your trademark nonsense on the way back from work the other day when I heard you put out the call to the Tailenders community for a prop man. I could be that prop man. I didn't work on Shooting Stars as you asked for, but I'm currently the prop master on the new series of Spitting Image. I'd love to make the England captain a spaghetti guitar for the live show when all the pandemic is behind us. Keep up the good work. Charlie. There we go. We've got our spaghetti guitar in the works.
Great.
Oh, Ian, Ian, we're talking about having a live show where we recreate cricketers' dreams on stage. So Joe Root is going to have a revolving bed and we're going to give him spaghetti guitar. Maybe you can join us on stage and then you can analyse the dream after we've reenacted it.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
absolutely.
I feel like
Yeah.
with that voice in, you could do a live narration of it as like a voice of God.
Yes.
Thank you.
And then Joe took the guitar and fell asleep on the bed. The bed started revolving. It was a beautiful sight.
See, you're becoming a dream apprentice already.
Thank you. Ian, thanks so much for I keep insulting you by doing your voice. Let's say goodbye and thank you, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Ian.
Ian.
Cheers.
Go well, mate.
Oh, he's great. What a great Sharky. What a booking.
Brilliant.
What
Okay,
a
well, let's.
booking.
What a booking.
Greg, by the way,
You changed.
we
You
got
know what?
a
You
name-
changed the game there.
I could listen to him all day.
Wow.
So
Greg, by the
good.
way, we got a new name for you, the Dream Apprentice.
Thank you.
Send those records back to him to re-sign.
Oh, no thanks.
The Dream Apprentice.
Hello, it's Greg James, the Dream Apprentice. Here.